Hi, it's Marc, Director of Coffee at Savor Brands. Today, I'm very honored, privileged to be able to speak with Sam Mirto, VP of Coffee Operations over at Ferris Coffee and Nut Company out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hey, Sam, how's it going?
Great, Mark. How about yourself?
Really good. Yeah, great weather here, and yeah, hope everything with the heat wave that's happening, on the continent isn't affecting you guys too much.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of that over the next couple of days. It'll be in the 90s. But
Mm,
yeah, I mean, it's been a hotter summer here too. I mean, in
hmm
Michigan, we usually have some 90-degree days and it's hot and humid, but it's usually pretty temperate. We're right next to Lake Michigan, so it kind of
mm,
keeps the weather a little more even keel. So
yeah.
it's really nice in the summertime. I recommend visiting if you haven't.
Oh, I've never been to Michigan yet, but definitely going to stop by, your shop. We were just before we started recording, we were talking about your awesome space and offerings that you guys provide to, the coffee community and just the general public too. So,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, could you uh talk about, yourself and how
sure.
how you found or how coffee found you or you found coffee and what drives your commitment and dedication to your craft?
Yeah, great question. So I grew up working in a cafe all throughout high school and all through college, and I think that's where my interest in coffee started. And it was a smaller town right on the lake shore in Michigan, and a lot of great local community, kind of regular business. And then it was a very touristy town too, so kind of seasonal swings. We had a lot of people from Chicago that visited throughout the summertime. So you got kind of the fast-paced feel, of a retail business. And then during the wintertime, you got to kind of relax a little bit more and chat with the locals. And so you saw the human side of coffee and kind of the business side of coffee. But my mind has always been very conducive to, like art and science and very center-brained. And so I got kind of going down the rabbit hole of coffee as a plant, and I got into home roasting at that time. So after I graduated college, I stuck with the home roasting thing, and I visited local coffee shops frequently. And I was working in Grand Rapids at the time, and so Ferris was one of the shops that I went to. And I knew somebody who worked there, and I went in there and asked if I could buy greens, and they didn't really do that at the time, maybe a little bit here and there. So I would buy them to home roast, and they a couple weeks after that, I was in finance at the time. They asked if I'd be interested in a director of coffee position. That hadn't really been kind of I guess there hadn't been one person doing that at Ferris before that. So yeah, I was like, you know what, I wasn't really looking for anything at the time, but it was an incredible opportunity. Ferris at the time was looking to make a lot of changes to the way that source coffee, roasted coffee, just brings some more intentionality to the program in general. So I was like, man, I can't pass this up. So here I am, maybe 10 years later or so, and still learning things every single day. It's been awesome.
Yeah,
Coffee.
I mean, yeah, I was reading about you, a little bit, and you're also a Q grader.
Yeah,
Do you also you're very involved with like sourcing, I'm guessing, and like you buy all the greens as well,
correct.
of course.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
How has it been, I mean, so far as with your role with the company, do you get to travel to, different parts of the world, developing relationships with producers?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very lucky and been able to travel to many coffee growing countries, and that never gets old. And I'll never take that for granted. And we do think that it's imperative to understand the supply chain and build those long-term relationships with people that we work with. So we'll
Hmm.
continue to do that. Travel has slowed, over the past couple of years during COVID, but I'm looking forward to getting back into it. We've had, some good rapport with people that we've worked with over the years via Zoom or whatever. And so we've been able to exchange samples and it's worked, but it's not quite the full experience. And so this fall, I'll probably start heading back to coffee growing countries again. So
Mm.
yeah, looking
How
forward to it.
how big is your team? Are you
Yeah, so Ferris has today about 120 full-time employees, and then we do work with some temporary employees as well. And so, the total count on a daily basis might be in the 120 to 140 range. So we're not a small company anymore, but we're not huge yet. We're a
Mhm.
great, still family-owned business. The current ownership has owned the company since the mid '80s, and so there's family members working here, and there's the succession plan in place, and so it's a really great place to be. Really family-oriented culture, and so
Mhm.
it's a tight-knit team. We always say that we're a small group of people doing big things. So
Oh. Yeah, doing like reading up on the company, we were talking about that, in about a couple of years you guys will be celebrating your 100th year.
yeah.
That's remarkable.
It's crazy, yeah. So Ferris, yeah, started way back, apparently even before the incorporation date in
Mm.
1924, and that's kind of what we point to as the beginning of the
Oh.
company. And so, yeah, the roots are traced back to the Grand Rapids area, like late 1800s. It was a family name at the time, and so
Mhm.
since then there has been maybe four different owners, I think. And so, really, not too many in that long of a time period, but yeah, the company started very small, roasting coffee. And then, there's several retail spots in the downtown Grand Rapids area, kind of moved from one place to another and started roasting nuts on a small scale at some point. And then it really took off in the early 90s when, specialty coffee was becoming more popular in general. So the wholesale side of the business grew a lot in the local area. And now at this point, and then we the nut side of the business really took off in the early late
Mhm.
90s, early 2000s, and then at this point, you can find our products nationwide essentially. So it's been a wild ride, and yeah, we're excited for the next whatever next 100 years, we'll say.
Yeah, the evolution of Ferris is pretty amazing. How has I guess your company, yeah, how has your company shaped the community, especially during the last couple years? Coffee is always,
Yeah,
I consider coffee a pillar of the community. But yeah, in
yeah.
your part of the country.
No, it's a great question. So our philosophy on coffee has always been a little bit different than I guess a typical kind of third wave cafe essentially than your typical specialty coffee roaster. We try to be more inclusive, I would say. And so education is a big part of what we do, educating the local community. So we talked a little bit about it already. We offer classes that are very affordable, $20, $40 a class. They last 2, 3 hours, and we teach subjects on how to taste coffee better at home, how to brew coffee better at home, home roasting, how to pour latte art, all these subjects that like your casual kind of coffee geek, would be interested
Mhm.
in. And then, people usually end up bringing family members, and it becomes a whole, fun full day. And so, so that's part of it. But then the coffees that we focus on sourcing, roasting, they're fantastic coffees for our brand. We only source coffee that scores 80 points and above on the SCA scoring form. So it's specialty coffee by definition there. Um, and we do offer coffees, in the 86 plus range. If you come to
Mhm.
our cafes, you come to Grand Rapids sometimes, we'll show you some of those fun coffees from small lots and really unique, processing styles of varietals or whatever it is. And I love those coffees as well. But I also, we also pride ourselves on those, 80 to 82, just everyday great solid coffees. I mean, that's where our bread and butter is as a brand.
Mhm.
And so I think that's been a differentiator for us. We love visiting all the the specialty coffee roasters that do focus on the 86 plus. Don't get me wrong; those are some of my favorite spots. But I always say, and we always say we want our grandparents to be able to drink our
Mhm.
coffee and enjoy it too. So we don't necessarily. It doesn't mean we have something that necessarily everybody would enjoy, I would say, but I think we cast a kind of a wider range of appeal. So, and that's always been a goal of ours to make specialty coffee approachable. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
That's awesome. And kind of going back to your role with the company, while the company has been around for, a very long time,
yeah.
what could you say are Ferris Ferris Coffee's, maybe top two most proudest moments thus far?
Oh, proudest moments in
Yeah.
history. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
or just during your time with the company, yeah, that you could.
Um, so I would say, so a while back, it's kind of a longer term, it's not like a one pivotal point type of thing, but
Mhm.
that conscious decision was made, back about the time when I started at Ferris about 10 years ago to focus more on specialty coffee only.
Mm.
In the area, we focused on kind of office coffee and we did a lot of private labels, and the Ferris brand wasn't something that was necessarily fully developed yet. And so I think for me that was a pivotal spot in my career. It was a little bit scary, kind of changing and moving into coffee from finance, but like I said, I wouldn't change anything for the world. And I give a lot of credit to, that's a kind of a scary decision as well, from an ownership standpoint, to start to focus on specialty coffee and say, hey, we're going to travel to origin. We're going to meet with
Mm.
producers. We're going to focus on this kind of more niche style of coffee. And so I would say that, for me, that's been a pivotal moment. I mean, that in the first 3 years, I would say that I was at Ferris, really all that kind of transpired. And that has been our identity since then. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, man. I think maybe getting the Q too was a huge
Oh.
moment for me. I mean, you're sweating taking that test the entire time, and you don't know how you're going to do it, and you're second guessing everything. So I'm sure anybody who sees this, who's taken the Q or studied for it, will know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah. Did you
yeah,
were you able to take it pretty close by, or did you have to kind of fly somewhere pretty far to?
went out to Kansas City, so not
Oh,
yeah, really
okay.
not too far. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a great area there, great lab there, and yeah, it was a good
Mhm.
group of people too. That's
Yeah.
the coffee community as a whole is always really supportive, and
Yeah.
it's always so cool to get coffee professionals together and just kind of have
Hmm.
that feedback loop of the kind of professional side of things. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the queue is definitely it's a very daunting task. So congrats for, making
hey,
it out
thank
the
you.
other end and yeah, passing. So how long have you had the queue?
So I just recertified, my second recertification
Mm.
in February-ish, something like that, February, March, recently.
Mm.
So it's maybe over 6 years now, I want to say.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. I know you're into coffee a lot. Do you have your Q
I
or
do. Yeah.
yeah,
I
okay,
just
sweet.
I
Nice.
just recertified last May, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody there told me that, and I was like, hey, that's really cool.
Yeah. But all the what you just said, yeah, I totally felt that throughout the, 5 days. I was like, yeah,
Yep.
but congratulations. And have there is another member on your team as well, right? That
Yeah.
has their cue.
Yep, AJ Willett. Yeah, he's been with Ferris for a long time as well, and he started off on the education side of things as
Mm-hmm.
our head trainer, the head of our education department.
Oh.
And so he then kind of transitioned recently into really helping source a lot of the coffees
Mm-hmm.
that we work with, and he got his cue kind of throughout that process,
Mm-hmm.
and now he oversees all of our cafe operations. So
Mm.
but he's a great coffee professional. He's certified through the SCA as a
Mm-hmm.
trainer as well.
Oh.
He's got his Q. Yeah. So just a solid guy. I hope he doesn't hear me say that, but I'm sure he will.
We'll make sure to keep that in there.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Wow, Ferris, man, Ferris seems to be pretty stacked in terms of not only talent but just like what you guys offer for the community.
Yeah.
We talked about SCA too. What about competitions? Do you do like coaching, or do your baristas compete at regional or national competitions?
Yeah, we have in the past. We haven't in the past few years though. But yeah, we've had baristas compete in the both the brewers competition and the barista.
Oh,
And we actually hosted one of the regional events here. This was a couple
oh,
years ago. Yeah, it was right when we moved into this building, and that lab that I was just in that we've talked about a little bit. It's set up in such a way that there's that stadium seating. I mean, you can fit 40,
oh,
50
that's
people in here.
perfect.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and the bar has like, all the kind of brew, like it's got, hot water and drainage and, everything on one side, and it's got espresso set up on the other side. So you can do pour overs on one side. So we would stagger it. There would be a barista competitor
Right.
and a brewer
Bruce.
competitor. And then we have these conference rooms that I'm in right now that the judges would kind of hop
Oh,
into and deliberate. So it worked really well. So that was a blast to host that.
sounds like you guys had it built with competition in mind. That's like the perfect setup right there.
I would think so. I don't know if we've had that foresight, but we're gonna
Yeah.
say yes, we did.
Well, thank you, Sam, so much for your time. I just had, one more question for you. You guys have a lot of history and so many things that, throughout that time, how Ferris has evolved. Uh, what's next though for Ferris? Can you speak on anything like, upcoming projects or, cool things you could share?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot is in the works for us. I mean, we don't plan on going anywhere, and we have, 1, 3, 5, and 10-year goals. With our brand, we'd love to see it, like we said, in all 50 states, and we'd like to become a household name in the Midwest, but not only the Midwest, eventually, throughout the entire country. And so we're a little bit unique in that we are both a coffee and a nut roaster. So will probably, I don't know if I'll name drop any of the retailers that we're in nationwide, but you'll see our products out there. A lot of them are nuts and mixes, and those are fantastic products as well. And we have aspirations to grow that side of the business just as much as we do on the coffee side of the business. So throughout COVID, things have shifted quite a bit as far as where that's coming from. Our local business, the local cafes and restaurants and workplaces that we serve are still really important to us. But our grocery presence has really increased quite a bit over COVID, which I'm sure is the case for a lot of coffee roasters out there. So that's a kind of a big goal for us in the next 3 to 5 years. We have a brand new nut butter line in house that
Mhm.
really is just kind of scratching the surface, and they're fantastic products. And so you'll start to see those hopefully more regionally and eventually nationwide as well. And and you'll never know, like we have 5 cafe locations right now. And so that part of the business is so much fun, and it's such a face of the company. And so we'd like to see what we can do there as far as expansion in the next few years as well. And so we have all sorts of stuff going on. There's never a dull moment.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
really fun company to be with. A really great group of individuals that are here. So
Hope to see maybe Ferris coffee in Hawaii then one day.
you know what?
Yeah.
It's funny. So there is it Foodlands out there.
Oh, yes.
We've
That's
been
our
chatting
grocery
to
chain. Yeah.
Foodlands. Yeah, there's 30, 35 locations, something like that. So
Hmm.
there may be something coming down the pipe there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, the Foodland's our big local grocery
Yeah.
chain here. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
something to look forward to. Right on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Sam, for the time. Today we've been talking to Sam Mirto, VP of Coffee Operations over at Ferris Coffee and Nut Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thanks, Sam. Take care.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Take care.